The Indian Act was created in 1876, an example of race-based legislation that still exists today. From 1885 to 1951, for over 60 years, Indigenous peoples were banned from conducting and participating in the ceremonies that were the foundation of their lives. The pass system was also created, and Indigenous people were restricted from leaving their reserves unless they received permission from the government Indian agent.
And that's why all our communities suffer, because that was taken from us. That was taken from us. We need to understand that. They need to understand that we need that back for our young people or our grandchildren to follow prayer again.
There's so many broken people out there. They need to understand, like, the things that our ancestors stood for.
By acknowledging the connection to the generational collective wisdom and knowledge carried by our ancestors, we explore how ceremony impacts the well-being of Indigenous families.
This stuff that I know about should be shared everywhere, because I feel like, how are people going to understand our people if we don't talk about it and if we don't make it normal again?
There's no other thought but love. Makes you feel at home. Your spirit gives you that good feeling.
I always want people to go. Like, I always hope that they connect with that spiritual part, because I definitely think that our ancestors wanted these things to still be here.
The elders and knowledge keepers shared with us that they needed to return to home and to ceremony to learn about who they were as an Indigenous person. The experiences of being in ceremony connected to spirit were humbling and life-changing, and stripped away the years of colonization and assimilation.
There was my relative of mine kept on telling me, let's go to a sweat. I said, no, I don't want to go to those things. They're terrible things. I heard there's bad medicine, bad stuff. No, I don't want to go there. He kept after me though. He kept after me. One day he said, I'll go once. I said, that's it. And to bring some blood cloth and tobacco. So I went with him. I was scared of my wits to go in there. I said, right by the door, just in case I can run out. You know, I stayed 4 rounds. That's where I changed my life. I found something there. Well, it found me.
What the ceremony has done for me, it has created a safe place, and I always want to share it with other youth.
Because when you are in ceremony, there's no sexual abuse, there's no hate, there's no evilness, there's no like horrible things that make you feel terrible, that bring out the worst in you. Unless you're releasing that yourself by crying, get it out, because it has to leave. If it doesn't, you're drowned in it.
And most of all, I got tobacco here so I could share what I know. In lifetime, learning the sacred teachings takes time. It's lifetime learning. There's no ending.
It brings me back to Unchi. It humbles me, this way of life, how it keeps me sober. And try to find those teachers, and not only those ceremonial headmen, those ones when it comes to land-based learning, all the medicines, and how good that way of life is. We all know how important it is to get our education. but to actually learn the medicine will actually take us a long way.
I definitely credit ceremony life to helping me be strong with not drinking and not doing drugs.
Being involved in ceremony and being able to start from there in a holistic path. And all of that with a lot of help from the mentorship of elders.
Priscilla McGilvery shares that as human beings, we are vessels from which spirit works through. And it's the power of the drum, the rattle, the fire, and the circle that creates space to heal without fear and shame.
We forget one thing here when we talk about this little one. I never heard you say anything about the spirit of that child. My grandfather taught me one long time ago. He said when that young boy hung himself, he said, he did a ceremony. He said, I was working for child welfare with I forget what it was, tribal council anyway. And anyways, I was talking to these people. I said, I'm just going to not teach you. I'm just going to tell you what I heard. That young man that hung himself, he said, he had so many placements. So many placements. You see, he got abused in one of those places, sexually, physically. And what happened, he said, he left his spirit there. And you continue to put them in those places. He said he doesn't know where to go. He didn't know where to go. So I said, don't forget the spirit when you're talking about placements, when you're talking about this young child. Where is their spirit? This child didn't go in seven placements. You know, we have to really talk about that. Elders, so many elders out there that know what I'm talking about the spirit. We visited the jail, my grandfather Red Bear and I. This one young man come, we did a sweat there. They had this, they're preparing for them to go out now. They've been in a few years. And one young man come, and my emotion made didn't talk really good English. And finally he gave him some tobacco. He said, could you tell your elder, he said, I've been going in and out of this place. He said, a long time now. I have a family at home. I keep going back and keep going back. I stay in, I finish my time, and I come out again. He said, I'm getting tired now. So I told my grandfather that he took that tobacco. He reminds me of my grandfather. We prayed with him. He said, now you tell this young man. He said, when you come back and forth, he said, you're looking for something that's precious. He says, you come to look for your spirit. When you go out, he said, you ask an elder out here, he said, ask him to bring back your spirit.
Priscilla McGilvery shares, when you go into a sweat lodge, you go into calmness, and that's where healing happens. It needs to be in a calm place, in a place of love, sagit the wind space. When there is love, there is no shame and judgment, and that's when spirit comes in to help.
It's a mystery, we're spirits. Even all these kids are spirits. Mm-hmm. Today I talk about honoring. Maybe you should honor each student, each kid, honor them. Because each one of them have a spirit.
My kids, as soon as they got home from the hospital that night, they were in ceremony. They got their name that night. When their belly button fell off days after, we took that and we put it in those lodges. Like there's 2 sweat lodges. 2 of my kids are in a sweat lodge, their belly buttons. One's in a wall lodge, one's in a sun dance lodge. And like, then we've been bringing them to ceremonies, and so like I have a memory where Jay-Z was on my lap and she was wrapped up in a moss bag and we're in a ceremony and I had a pillow on my lap and I had her moss bag on there. And I remember the Wapi Muskwa came in the ceremony and he was talking, and all of a sudden I felt like hands on that pillow, and then all of a sudden like, so when I put my hands there, she wasn't there, and I was like feeling in the dark. I'm like, where's, I'm going like this and I can't find her, and then I could hear like, and then he put her back down, and I was like, my grandfather just kissed my baby, you know, and like, I just pictured it in my mind, like I pictured this bear, like, in paws, like, kissing this baby, right, and I just thought, like, and I just think it's so cool, like, Jay-Z can say that, you know, I can, and that's something I witnessed, you know, and so I just think people don't realize, like, how strong our people are, and these ways will find a way.
Probably the biggest point in my life was in 2012 when my daughter was murdered here in Edmonton, right on Canada Day. And we get all kinds of, I guess, advice or people trying to offer support. And I think the biggest thing people did for me at that time was pray or put up ceremony, invite me to ceremony. And it wasn't until this elderly lady had shared with me, you know, we don't own, reminded me, we don't own our lives. You know, I always heard that from my parents, but, you know, this was so close, so. And we started to do a little, I guess, homework. It was at the Saddle Lake Sundance, and I had this adopted brother come to me, and he said, they want you to bring in the water, do the water dance on Sunday. So I said, okay. And I remember seeing all these well-known elders or knowledge keepers, whatever you want to call them, that had brought in the water on Sunday, and I thought, wow, you know, I'm just, who am I to do this, you know, because I know I got to tell a story. So I danced, and we smoked a pipe, and then we brought the water into the lodge, and I can't explain that feeling. You know, it was amazing. Again, I was able to feel that energy. I could feel when people seeing us coming, the dancers, the whistles got louder, drums got louder, because they got excited, they seen us bringing in the water. So we brought in the water, and then when you bring in the water, you know you have to speak, because you survived something, or you have a story to tell. And that's what I told the people. It's about losing my daughter, the importance of the connection to ceremony. And as I was speaking, I reminded the people, especially the young people, that it's not us losing our culture, it's us losing ourselves. Our culture has always been there. We got to take it. We got to reach for it. We got to want it. And I spoke and I finished speaking, and then I felt so new again. We're trying to put the ceremony into these organizations. We have to remind them that it's not all singing and dancing. It's that kiskinowapahtam are those teachings of how we treat one another.
And that's how us Indigenous people were trained. And the other is a language, for example, kisawassak. These are orphans. These are kids that are taken kits. Kitsi means higher than us. That's what our grandfathers, grandmothers used to find them when they were orphaned, which means That child is above us. That child is above our child. That means we have to take responsibility for that child. Totally love that child. We've lost that.
And it was healing. We were healing so many scars from that residential upbringing. There was so much rigidness in my upbringing that it worked against me for a lot of things that I had to do to accomplish what I had to do. One of them, never abandon your post. Those children are there, they need you, they're dependent on you. That mother bear will kill you if you touch her cubs. That's our mentality. That has to be brought back.
Joe L. Cardinal shared that as generations are passing, things are changing. Everything we do in ceremony needs to follow an order, and he's always reminded to never take shortcuts. Ensuring you follow the stages to complete the ceremony is essential in the Nehiyah way of life.
Take their kid and go pick berries and go by the mountains over there and do a little fishing. And so they took their 2 grandchildren. They had a cabin out there. So they went. Team of horses. And children. So one time Grandpa said, "Come, Stump. Go learn something today," he said. So he made a fire, a nice little fire. He took tobacco and he was praying. Put that tobacco in that fire. He told him what that fire meant to him. He said, "This is your grandfather, your dad, your brother. This is what it symbolizes," he said. "Don't spit in it, don't throw garbage in there," he said. That spirit, that fire is so important to us. Mm. So he went down by the river there, took his tobacco again, and he offered again to the water, said a beautiful prayer. He turned to his grandchildren and said, "This water," he said, "represents your grandmother, your mother, your sister. Don't throw garbage, don't throw, don't spit in there," he said. That symbolizes us, your grandmother, your mother, your sister. He said, "Anything that moves, grandsons, everything that moves has a spirit," he said. One. So he left them like that. But kids are kids, they played around. And all of a sudden they come to this, there was a limb there. There was the limb. And there was a cocoon there. They watched this cocoon and they see it move a little bit. Every once in a while it move a little bit. Oh, they sat down, remember their grandparents, "Don't touch it, anything that moves, don't touch it." So they sat there all afternoon watching this cocoon. What is it? There's a mystery about that. What is it? They didn't know what it was. Probably the grandmother said, "Be meat, Sook, come and eat." So one of the boy went in the bush and he found a sharp object, dry wood. Gently, so ever gently, he poked a little hole at the end of that cocoon. He sat down. Before long, a butterfly came out. So elegantly, just landed on flipping its wings. These boys were just so overwhelmed with that. They said, "That's our butterfly. That's our cocoon." So they had to go home and eat. They went home and eat, so went to bed. Next morning, they went running down, excited to go and see their butterfly. But in total distraught and total dismay, they seen this butterfly lay upside down. It died through the night. Very, very saddened by this whole process. Why? Why did it have to die? They questioned it. So they went and found a little bit of tobacco and they went to their grandfather. They had tears in their eye. Want to know why that butterfly died. Moshe was so happy. He said, "Come on in. Today you're going to learn something today." So he did a beautiful prayer. As he took that butterfly in the cocoon, he had told the Creator how grateful he was to have his grandchildren that they're going to learn something of value today. As he set him down, he said, one of you boys spoke to a small object in that cocoon. "You see, grandchildren, what you have done," he said, "you made it easier for that butterfly to come out. when you see it moving in its cocoon, he said, all it was doing was building its muscles and its wings. So it had that strength to come out of that cocoon. It would have that strength to fly to its purpose in life. So they understand a very valuable lesson about that cocoon. So simple. So that's how we have to, in a way, make these people wear that story to these people, to these designers that want to design things for the kids. That's a story. That's a mystery of what we can do with life, how we can, join hands and let's do something. Let's do something together.
It is absolutely critical that social work education creates space to explore the meaning and understanding of ceremony and the healing that only ceremony can bring to the lives of Indigenous families, children, individuals, and communities.
Declaration of Rights for every Nehio child. Every Nehio child has the full and absolute right to experience love on their human journey and to have their gifts honored, to know and to live all of the spiritual teachings, to know and to live and to participate in ceremony, to learn and to live in the Nehio language, to relationships and connections with family, the community, and the ancestors based in the Nehio teachings, to know their spiritual clan and learn their teachings, to laughter and Nehio humor, to have access to Nehio medicines, healing processes, and wellness teachings, to be strongly connected to many nâtawihon and kiskinowapahtam, to gather, to hunt, and to feast according to the teachings, to learn the songs and the ceremonies, to become isihcikêwinihk and nâtawihon, to learn and to live the Nehio parenting and caregiving teachings and practices, to the freedom to choose, to live by either Western or Indigenous worldviews, values, and beliefs, or both, to have economic opportunities for themselves and to access economic development in their communities, to being a living part of their Nehio community, to live miupamatsun in a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual balance. Every individual, agency, program, caregiver, etc. has the absolute responsibility to ensure that all of these rights are protected without exception.